Buddy Sam Quinton with Sinopa Publishing right here in Frankfort, Kentucky. And we are live January 4th, 2026 for the first live stream this year. We are going to get back into the swing of our weekly live streams. Hopefully, we can have a smoother year than we did in 2025. Now, tonight we're going to do a little something different. As you guys know, we talk a lot about comics and role-playing games, crowdfunding, how-to stuff, and then also a lot of other pop culture stuff, and then even things about family and living life, stuff like that. But we try to be fun and exciting here. So what we're going to do tonight, actually, the first thing I'm going to do tonight is check and make sure that we are actually getting through on the channels we selected. So give me just a moment here. We are live. It is all right. Are we coming through? You can hear me clicking and clacking and clicking and clacking. So, yep, we should be good to go. All right, everybody. So, a couple of things we're going to talk about today as far as anime, which I was hoping was going to show through on the channel, on the stream title, but it did not. We're going to talk about Mushuko Tensei, aka Jobless Reincarnation, and then also a new anime release, Sentenced to be a Hero. And I think we're going to start with Sentenced to be a Hero because it's fresh in the mind. Excuse me. Now, I am an anime only on this, so I'm basing this on what we have from the debut episode, which was actually almost an hour long. I was pretty impressed by that. It was a nice surprise. Let's see here. We've got characters. All right, cool. Now, with this debut, I went in completely cold. I didn't do any research prior to it going live. And so I was really just jumping in raw, right? Which is, I think, the way I really like to tackle new anime, just to enjoy what's there and get into it based on just what's presented through the production. Now, I'm pulling up the wiki on this, so I have a couple of references. All right, so we've got the debut key characters, of course, were Xylo, who is, from the looks of things, the main character of this story. Now, you don't learn until the end of this debut episode what his background is. Now, I'm not going to spoil that for those of you who haven't seen it. It is well worth watching. I know it's almost an hour long. Make the time, squeeze it into your schedule to see this because it is well worth it. A few things about this show that caught me up with about Xylo. The character design is exquisite, absolutely fantastic. And then you've got Tiorita, I think is how it's pronounced, which is the goddess that was liberated, stolen, abducted by a small character called Doda. Doda apparently is a kleptomaniac, for what it looks like. And his whole thing about stealing from other heroes is an interesting problem. But he steals this coffin that has Tiarita in it, or however it's pronounced, right? Um, and then when she comes to, she basically decides that Xylo, our MC, is going to be her knight. Now, this first episode does not go very very deep into world building. It just touches on a few things about what the deal is with heroes, and eventually you'll see why people look down on them, particularly the knights, the holy knights look down on them. But the animosity runs really really deep. I mean really really deep right off the bat. It's painted in there pretty hard. Now, I watched the dub on this. The English voice acting was absolutely fantastic. And the animation was top tier. There was only one little blip, probably 1 or 2 seconds, during one battle that they had a few frames in there just squeezed in, like I said, 1 or 2 seconds long, that the animation did not look absolutely top tier, and everything else was movie quality. So one of the things about this is the enemies that they're fighting in this first episode give me really really strong Princess Mononoke vibes. These corrupted natural creatures, these poisoned and mutated, transformed, mutilated beasts, animals of different kinds, whether they be deer or frogs or wolves or what have you. And then this whole concept of these demon lords who are corrupting nature and hurling these foul creations, these foul corruptions, these perversions of nature against the holy knights who are out there to try and stop this. There's a lot of interesting concepts here at play with the implementation of the weapons that the holy knights use. The main character, Xylo, his weapon, actually, when he was going around throwing knives and stuff and blowing stuff up, it really made me think a lot more of like people throwing grenades, right? So as far as the effects, but the overall animation for these fight sequences was pretty seamless. Even little moments of quiet and conversation had really in all honesty, there were a couple of minutes where they were just having conversations where there was more genuine animation than you saw in the entirety of the first episode of season 3 of One Punch Man. Is just fantastic work by the staff on this title. The cool thing about this is that it is based, rather I should say, on a light novel, a novel and light novel, I guess I should say, that started in 2020. So this really got its anime pretty quickly. I don't know when they actually announced it, but let's see here. Let's see if Wiki knows it. Does not seem to say when the announcement was going to be going on. Oh, here it is. Anime adaptation was announced at the Dengeki Bunko 30th anniversary event, July 16th, 2023. So about 2.5 years from the announcement to the release. But guys, what a release. If you are a fan of the animation that was done from Mushuko Tensei and from Princess Mononoke, imagine those animators collaborated, and this is kind of what you're seeing. just absolutely breathtaking. I need to find an image I can show you guys. Let's see what we got here. Something from the anime itself. Yeah, there's people have caught a lot of stills on this. Well, we're not gonna grab anything from other people. I'm trying to look to see if we can find something from the actual company that released it, but we don't want to snipe other folks' stuff. All right. Ask for me. Do more research next time and get some images. All right. Let's see what we got here for. Cool. Shout out to all the viewers that we've got on X right now with 4 viewers. Good to see you guys. I'm not seeing you in the display. All right. Well, I'll figure that out eventually. Again, guys, feel free to put questions, comments, criticisms, or concerns in the chat, and we'll respond to those. We are live on Twitter/X or X/Twitter, however you want to put it, as well as YouTube tonight. And we will probably add Facebook, Rumble, and maybe Kick later this year. Okay, after I get the rest of the stream set up, built out. I do have the second monitor. I was going to put that in today. However, I had a house full of kids. So, house full of kids. All the neighborhood kids came over to play with my daughter. So they were all playing. And so I was doing the dad thing and, making treats and lunch and dinner for all these kids. So fun times. Back on target. So Xylo, Tiarita, Dota. There was a female captain of the Holy Knights. Wiki got her name as Padoshi. I don't know if that's pronounced correct. Kibia. Okay. Anyway, the only thing about that character design that threw me off was the hat. The hat looked wildly out of place with everything else I was seeing with the knights wearing armor, and then everyone who wasn't wearing armor not wearing any headwear. But I mean, the key thing about that is your faceless characters don't have names, right? So yeah, the helmets have a purpose. They make it so you don't have to animate facial expressions, and they cut back on the number of characters you have to name. But with this character, I don't know, man. Something about the design with that hat just threw everything way off for me. Now, the daughter. The whole episode, like I said, lasted almost an hour long, which is a tremendous amount of time for a debut episode. Very, very well worth it. From start to finish, bang, 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 bang. They hit the story beats. They hit the animation. Fantastic, fantastic artwork, really, all the way around. Terrific combat sequences. And like I said, some really interesting concepts with some of their weaponry. I thought that was kind of neat. The monsters were, grotesque in a way that reminded me again a lot of the monsters that we saw in Princess Mononoke. So, different art style, but kind of similar theme. Really something that I think you'll enjoy. I'm not going to beat these individually too much to death. We're going to go ahead and cover a few other anime as we go. But if you have any questions about my take on Sentenced to be a Hero, go ahead and comment below. And no, I'm not turning into a stream that just talks about anime and manga all the time. It's just this was something that was very much on my mind. I was looking forward to seeing this, and I saw it, and we're going to go with it. And then I also wanted to talk about one of my other favorite anime that I get to watch that's getting a 3rd season release this year, which is Mushuko Tensei, which is what we're about to start up with. Jobless reincarnation. Okay, so if you haven't seen the anime Mushoku Tensei, you've probably seen, anyway, if you're following folks in on social media who talk about anime. Man, my ears are wreck. Let's try that. And you taking and following people who talk about anime, or if you're seeing people posting about anime, Mushoku Tensei gets a lot of cross traffic. You've got people who dislike the anime because of some of the underlying concepts. You've got people who absolutely love the anime, people who don't care about the controversies either way. And the controversies are really a non-controversy because, again, folks, we're talking fiction here. Tell you what, I'm going to just take and leave that off. And if something pings, I'll just hear it this way. Cool. So, Mushoku Tensei, Jobless Reincarnation. For those of you who haven't seen it, there's a lot of spoilers here coming. So just bear with. If you haven't seen it yet, pause this here. Go watch 2 seasons of Mushoku Tensei. You will enjoy it and come back and watch the rest of this in a week or so. A few things about our main character, Rudius Greatrat. So at the heart of this, Mushoku Tensei is an isekai, and it's often referred to as one of the godfathers or original isekais. Now, I would counter that with saying that the original Dungeons and Dragons cartoon is an isekai as well, and there were some that preceded that that we could call up as well. But the isekai main character is Rudius Greatrat, who was a shut-in his life in Japan. He was widely despised by his siblings, apparently, and kicked out of the house after his parents died. And then soon thereafter, met Truck-kun and ended up reincarnated as a baby. He is largely without any redeemable characteristics early on at all. He is lecherous. He is scheming, conniving, kind of lazy. And what happens through the early part of Mushoku Tensei is you see how he's not really very likable, you know? And he's a baby, and then he's a small child. And one of the things that sticks with him from his previous life is his fear of getting out and going away from home. And there's some reasons for that. Again, if you haven't seen the anime, go watch it. But he had been bullied a lot when he was in school, and that was what drove him into, basically hiding in his parents' house throughout his life. Now, with his new life and his second chance, he has this opportunity to kind of redeem himself. And we got comments, yay! What did you see? I don't know, Pete. What did you see, man? Pete Vasquez, everybody. He is a fantastic artist. He's done work for me as well as many other people. He has not only designed the stickers for our Tipping Our Time Traveling Psychedelic Mushrooms, but also for our Art by Humans magazine. And he's done a number of artworks that are going to be in Art by Humans. So make sure you check that out. We'll be putting the pre-launch page up pretty soon. Pete, if you would drop your Twitch channel and other socials into the chat so that people can see where they can follow you. And if you're asking what did you see, let me know. If it's just me without glasses, I take them off every once in a while, I promise. Anyway, we're talking about anime. We're talking about Sentenced to be a Hero and then Mushoku Tensei. So, jobless reincarnation. So, Rudius is a lecherous little pervert, basically. He is not so much an offender, I guess I should say, as he is just someone who has really, really pronounced tendencies, I guess. So, I mean, as an infant crawling around, he's like stealing the maid's underwear and stuff like that. Just real weirdo crap. But as he grows, he becomes less of the person he was and more of the child he's been reincarnated into. But he still has a lot of the memories, a lot of the cognitive development that an adult possessive, and he's still able to process new information like a child is. So he's learning the new language of the language of the new world he's been born into. He is learning things that are going on, and then one day he gets a little boo boo. He gets a little ouchy, and his mother uses a little bit of healing magic on him, and it's the first time he finds out that there's magic in this world he's been born into. Blows his little mind. And so as he gets bigger, eventually he basically teaches himself to read and starts studying from books that his parents had, his parents being being retired adventurers. And from that, he finds that there's a little bit of common knowledge that may in fact not be correct, because it seems that people believe that you're born with a certain amount of magic potential, a certain amount of mana, and that's going to be the same forever. But what he finds is that as a child, the more he works on practicing his magic, the more that he expends it and then regenerates it and expends it and regenerates it, the stronger and greater his reservoir of power becomes. And so as a small child, what comes to pass is one day he does a little spell that he wants to try out from the book and blows a big chunk out of the house. And that's when his parents, God only knows what they were doing, discover that he's taught himself to read and he's using magic. Now his parents are quite something. Paul is his dad in this new world, Paul Greyrat, who is a philandering womanizer of a swordsman who settled down and married a party member who was a very proper and dignified healer. And of course, as many philanderers tend to do, he eventually screws up and cheats on his wife. Now, there's no justification for that, and that's the thing about this in Mushoku Tensei. People make mistakes and bad decisions that people in the real world actually make, and the anime does not. And again, I'm anime only on this. The anime does not seek to justify that. It just doesn't seek to justify it. Let's see who else we've got here in the chat, guys. Lock Win. How you doing, man? Good to see you. Lock Win, also a fantastic artist, everybody. Lock, make sure you put your social media links into the chat so people who are watching this can see where to find you. Hopefully Pete will have his there pretty soon too. Guys, definitely check these artists out. I am fortunate in my role as the owner of Snow Publishing to work with and know many fantastic artists. So if you're looking for commercial art or personal commissions, definitely hit up Pete, definitely hit up Locke. Fantastic artists, guys. You won't be disappointed. So Locke, we're talking about anime tonight. We had some words, good words actually, about Sentenced to be a Hero, and now we're talking about Mushuko Tensei, Jobless Reincarnation. All right, so back to that. Yeah, the folks, the characters in the anime are flawed people, just like most people are. They make mistakes. Now, what this leads to in the future is complications in Rudius's home life, because the woman that Paul Greyrat, his dad, cheated on his mom with was their maid, and so she becomes pregnant. Yeah, it's a whole thing. The while this is while they were initiating their affair, however, shortly after Rudius blew a hole in the wall of the house, the mom and dad decided to hire a magic tutor to teach their little boy. And so they sent away for and eventually found a tutor to come and start training him. And the thing about that is that this person shows up, and she's a looks like a young girl, but she's actually of a race that they don't show their age, and she's I think 90 something years old when she starts training him. No, she's older than that. Yeah, she's a I think they call them a meagred, something like that. So she's how old is she? Let's check up and see what's going on there. I should have had some notes. So she was. Oh, I'm sorry. So she is 37 when she first meets him, and has a very youthful teenage appearance. Apparently, the meager demon people physically mature by the age of 14 and don't visibly age until they reach about 150 years old. And then she starts teaching him when he's 3. So there we go. Yay, internet, right? Anyway, there are some awkward scenes in the first season of Mushoku Tensei with Roxy eavesdropping on Paul and his wife having marital relations, and Rudy, little middle-aged man perv in a little child's body, spying on her. There's a lot of sexual undertones and expressions through how the people who are kind of in that household are viewing each other, and so it makes for a weird dynamic, one that I think probably makes some people a little turned off. Man, I need to get a haircut. But as Roxy works with Rudy, works on training little Rudius, and she discovers that one, he's able to produce magic without incantations, which is something that he taught himself in the attic, actually before he blew the wall out. And he is a very potent, very powerful magician by any metric for an adult, and when he's only really a toddler. So she works with him for I believe they worked together for like 3 years or something like that, and then by the time he is 6 or 7, she shows him a higher level magic that conjures like a huge gale and rainstorm and such. And at that point, he has some, I forget who it was, but it was either Roxy or the parents or something had given him a magic wand to help focus his power, and a tool that a real magician would use. And he's also able to utilize that when he puts this casting out, and just a tremendous amount of energy. And so basically, Roxy at this point has found that she's taught him pretty much everything that she can. And in going through teaching him, she herself has learned a lot. Now, I used to teach martial arts for a very long time. For a very, very long time. I taught martial arts. I taught self-defense courses for women. I taught techniques used during riot control. Just a lot of, different techniques in a lot of different situations. And one thing that I'll tell you is that when you train on something and you learn how to do it, you can get good at that. But when you force yourself to teach someone how it's done, when you go through and not just show the motions, but explain the why and what's going on and what the implications are, and you're more thoroughly focused on communicating that technique and that process to other people, it actually does a lot to strengthen your own skill set. You get better at your techniques, at your martial arts, from teaching your martial arts, just like you get better from practice. Basically, teaching is an extension of your practice. It's an extension of your own training, and will make your technique stronger. So in this instance, in Mushuko Tensei, we see kind of the same concept working for Roxy with regard to what she learned from teaching Rudy. All right. Now, there is a farewell scene when Roxy leaves because she's basically taught everything that she can. Paul is teaching and had been since he was 5 or 6 or 7. They began teaching Rudius, aka Rudy, some swordsmanship, which Rudy was not very interested in. But he did pick up some stuff. Again, he's a kid being taught things by his father in this case, who was a master swordsman. Now the thing is, too, at this point, Rudius is more Rudius at this point than he is that creepy middle-aged guy that was locked up in his room, right? He still carries those memories. He still carries that identity with him to a degree, but to him, he's now basically really become Rudius Grey Rat. And part of that really kind of pushed that over was with Roxy. She had taken him outside of the yard. I realize that's a weird way to put that, but there was a fenced area around the house where he lived, and he just did not want to leave it. It was just incredibly uncomfortable, a huge amount of anxiety. But she was able to take him out and do training with him out in the countryside and show him the countryside. And he saw, all the people who were in the area, and basically came to recognize that his parents, even though they lived in a humble little cottage and such, were basically important people within the social hierarchy. He wasn't a count or a duke or anything like that. Kind of more like a poor version of a knight, I guess, is a good equivalency, or maybe a warden of some kind, depending on which medieval reference you want to make. Actually, samurai might be a good reference for that. Having not much in the way of actual wealth coming in from anywhere other than his own holding, but being there to help look out after other people. And there's some times when Rudius's dad, Paul, does have to go out and confront monsters and whatnot. And so that's a thing that is in his overall experience as well. Now, let me check what time it is. I know we're going on and on and on. I don't want to just the whole story. We want to talk more about some things that go into it. The conflict that you'll see with people talking about Mushoku Tensei online is their disgust with the concept of, the soul of this 30-something-year-old, early middle-age pervy shut-in, being reborn and having a whole childhood, and his thought processes that go on concerning attractions to people around him, including someone who very quickly becomes his best friend, and later on his wife, Sylphiette, who he didn't actually realize was a girl at first, thought it was just a guy, and happened to encounter some people bullying her, and kind of came in and used a little bit of magic to some very good effect without killing these kids, obviously. And then spent, a lot of time just hanging out with his friend Sylvie, and worked on teaching magic to her. Again, didn't realize it was a she at first, right? And not that would have mattered for the teaching dynamic, but it's just something that didn't get in the way of his thought process, right? Now, when he discovered that she was a girl, that was a very awkward scene. Won't go into it here because I don't want to get too many people screaming at me. But when you take and you look at, after that discovery, everything really maintains that friendship dynamic. Now, he did, in this in the voiceover in the anime, you hear his thought process. He's like, well, maybe then she can, maybe I can help influence this. I forget the exact verbiage that was used. Maybe I can influence this so that she can be my wife one day, or something like that. It'd be great to have your childhood friend be your wife one day. Which is creepy when you're thinking about this, when they're both children at the time, and he still has this identity that's part of his core, that's his previous life. So it's very, very creepy in that regards. But it doesn't become a creepy thing in practice, if that makes any sense. Now, there's a lot of great stories in Mushoku Tensei for the first 2 seasons. Again, I encourage you to go ahead and check those out. But I want to talk about really some concepts about what you'll see with regard to Rudius Grey Rat and the harem of women around him that he ends up married to. So Rudius is, in many ways, unapologetically unlikable in many story arcs. Okay, just really not someone that you can usually like. And then he almost becomes redeemed, not through overcoming big quests, but because he becomes better behaved, because he grows as a person, because he becomes a better person. And then, much like his father in this world, Paul, he makes mistakes, whether they be, cheating on his wife, spoiler alert, or a number of other things that he had done that were just, not great. He has these moments where, as a character, he will really let you down if you're rooting for him. Let me go ahead, and I thought I had turned this off. I had not. Guys, I'm going to put together a checklist to make sure I turn off my phone, because every stream, that thing goes off. Sorry. Anyway, just when you get to like him a little bit more, right? Rudy fucks up. Rudy's Grey Rat does something that you're like, dude, what? Why? No. Why would you do that? But in the second season, we see that there's a few things that come to fruition. He gets married to Sylphiette as they're now, by this point, they're older. They're in their late teens, early 20s, whatever it is. I think it's late teen years. I think they're like 17 or something like that. Sylphiette becomes pregnant and they're going to have a baby. He goes on a quest that he needs to undertake, and I'll let you guys enjoy that without spoiling it here. And then reunites with Roxy, who he had a lot of feelings for as a child. And here she is, still looking the same that she had when he was little. He's now all grown up, as it were. And he makes the same mistake Paul does. He cheats on his wife. Well, fortunately for Paul and fortunately for Rudy, polygamy is not unheard of in this world. And Sylphiette, for whatever reason, and there's a lot of people who say, well, she loved Rudy and she didn't mind sharing him, or she had certain impulses, or whatever the reason may be. She accepts Roxy as the second wife in the household. And so what you get is you get this evolving stage of relationships in the character's life. Now, as we have season 3 coming up, season 3, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's season 3 coming up, we should see the return of another love interest, one that caused a great deal of psychological damage to young Rudy. Again, as an anime only, I cannot say whether or not they end up married or not. I don't know. I do know that at the end of season 2, you've got Sylphiette and Roxy as wives of Rudius, and then Rudy is at that point also has his mother there, and his 2 sisters are there, and the sisters are one from his mom and one from the maid, his half sister, and the maid is there as well. And so his success through all of his adventures, the money he's raised, the triumphs he's had, the things he's overcome, really do put him in a position financially to where now he has a home of his own. Whereas in his previous life, he had just kind of mooched off of his family, lived as a shut-in. And when you see it in the first season, you'll understand it's disgusting conditions. And now here he is, the head of his household, taking care of and being responsible for a lot of people, paying for one sister to go to the school that he is also attending and researching at, as well as having met a woman who was also isekai'd into this world at the same time he was, but instead of being reborn as an infant, she was just physically transported. And the weird thing about her is, whereas Rudy has tremendous amounts of magic, she does not, but she ended up hanging out with and running around with one of the most powerful magicians in the world for quite some time. And in their first meeting, they almost killed Rudius, not for lack of trying, that they didn't succeed. And then she meets up with him at the school as well. And the wrinkle here is that she wants to go back home. And Rudius is going to help her, but Rudius does not want to go back home. His life is here. He died in his old life, and now this is his new one. He has family. He has wives. He has friends at this point in the story. And those are things that he never really had in his previous life. So by all metrics, his current life is a vast improvement. But again, this is Rudius Grey Rat we're talking about. This is the guy who, just when you start to like him, he fucks up. He makes mistakes. And then you get to see that maybe he's not redeeming himself in this new life. Maybe his second chance is going to waste. Maybe in some instances, while he's doing a lot of good, maybe in some ways he's also bringing, considerable harm to people's lives. So it is a story about an imperfect character surrounded by other imperfect characters, some of whom have a great deal of love for him, some of whom do not, some of whom he feels a responsibility towards, i.e., his mother and the maid and his siblings. And in the coming season, I think we're going to see more about his child and maybe even other children. We'll see what that story comes about. And I would encourage you, all of you, if you haven't seen Jobless Reincarnation yet, Mushuko Tensei, I would suggest that you take some time, watch an episode, watch another episode. This is not something that's going to hit you by episode 3 that you definitely want to stick with it all the time. But watch through the first season, watch through the second season, enjoy the slow burn of the story and the absolutely stunning, and I do mean stunning, animation. I cannot tell you the last time I saw something that was as well animated as Mushuko Tensei. The only thing that, before I started watching season 1, I think the only thing I can remember immediately seeing that was as well animated, albeit in a completely different art style, was the original Ghost in the Shell. So definitely really high up there on the technical score. I know I went on a really long winded rant on that from Mushoku Tensei. I'm a big fan. I really enjoy it. Now, some of you guys out there are probably wondering, what about well, what's a another good one? What about the whole who's a better wife thing? We're not going to get into that. I mean, is Roxy a better wife? Is Sylphie a better wife? Who's a better wife for Rudius? I think that really just is a secondary thing that is not really that big of a deal, guys. Enjoy the anime and enjoy the story as it unfolds. I am considering picking up the light novels, but I decided at one point with Shield Hero that I was going to go ahead and pick up the light novels. And so I picked up the first one and I read through it, and it was decent. And so I ordered like the next 6. That was a mistake. I got through the second one. I got through the third one, and that was tedious. And I'll tell you, the more I read, the more I became convinced that the translations were buggy as hell. So I eventually stopped reading Shield Hero and just going to go ahead and deal with the actual anime. The other one would be Danmachi. Danmachi, with the English title, Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon? I have, instead of the light novels, I've gone with the manga. And the manga's pretty good. I've been enjoying that. That's been something. I am holding off on getting the light novels or manga from Mushoku Tensei until probably after the end of season 3. I think that's probably where I'm going to go and really start deep diving that. And most of that's because, honestly, making magazines, making comics, and making role-playing games as a writer and as a guy running a little small company takes a lot of time. Add to that a full-time day job and being a single father. And time to read is kind of hard. But that having been said, the new Jim Butcher novel is coming out on the 20th. I have pre-ordered it, and I am going to be reading that. So probably the end of the month stream or the first week of February, I will probably be talking about the latest Jim Butcher novel. So make sure you show up for that. Next week, we're going to be talking a lot more about crowdfunding, particularly. We should have some stuff done by then to show on the stream with regard to the Art by Humans campaign, and probably some things to show as well with regard to the Reign of Ages campaign, which will be launching shortly thereafter. One of the things about Kickstarter is that if you have a proven track record of fulfillment, they will allow you to run consecutive campaigns while you're waiting for printing and production and everything to finish on others. You do have to earn that. At least when I when I earned it, you had to. So I'm going to probably flex that a little bit this first quarter. We should see Art by Humans, followed by Reign of Ages issue 4, and then followed by probably Necroholic issue 4. And so we'll try to get 3 comics out this first quarter. Yeah, this first quarter of 2026. So we're off to the races, folks, and we're going to need as much help as we can to get these great comics funded. So if you like the comics we produce, you like the role-playing games we produce, you like hanging out with us here on the streams, make sure you go ahead and check those out when we get those out and help spread the word far and wide. All right, we are at 51 minutes. I'm actually going to cut this one a little early because I hear my daughter is up again, and she is supposed to have been asleep for over an hour and a half. So let me go check and see what she's doing and make sure she's okay. Maybe she just had to go up and go to the bathroom. I don't know, but I'm going to check on her anyway. But as we say every night that we close these out, please do make sure to take care of yourself. Stay hydrated. If you have any medications you're supposed to be taking, please make sure you take them correctly. Make sure that you are kind to yourself. And then also in a world where you can be anything, please do choose to be kind to others. Until next time, Sam Quentin with Sinopa Publishing.